just to make it a little funny in a way. Okay, so thanks for watching this part. Stay there. I'm gonna check everything out. Won't be long. Just cleaning up. Alright, so the second part is something I was looking for a while, for just like a, how do you say, a decoration or something to remind the theme around the things I'm making. And of course, this is not something I would normally do, but in the price of the device was the offer of receiving something extra. So I had different options. I looked for gifts for different people, and I told myself that from experience it's very difficult to get the proper gift to anyone, so I didn't do that for this time. I'll eventually be able to do it again when it, how would you say, when it becomes a little more obvious, when people are interested, or if they really are not, or if it changes anything in the end. So this time I was looking to go along with the Tesla, not the Tesla, sorry, the Stark chair. So for the Stark chair, this time I looked at this website particularly, and I ordered this little guy, which is something that I appreciate in real. I ordered an Iron Man suit, but of course it's a Lego Iron Man suit this time, so this one is going to be a little less bulky to put in the tiny office, like some of you know. So yeah, it's just like a decoration that I'll put, and I'll try to do some videos in there eventually so that people are aware that the builds are part serious, because there's real applications, and part fun also. So the fun part is, you know, seeing that what we would have imagined like 50 years ago, or, you know, for people that lived in those days, things like this was a comic book, and there were no really big notions of things like networks or power or electric vehicles.
This is what the user said, whose name is Shayat Mang. You have a real Iron Man suit.
No, I wish I would. I have a real Lego Iron Man suit, so that's basically, which is real Lego, which usually is pretty expensive, but since it alleviated the shipping cost, I decided to get this and probably keep it as some sort of not an investment, but just something funny to relate to the projects, which are a hybrid of, like I call it them, the project right now, the Avengers project, which will be a mix of both Tesla technology eventually, and other technologies that are a little more traditional, which were like kick scooters have been you know, around for a long time, but the electric ones have been pretty recent with the development of different batteries and BMS, the management of the recharge systems and things like that. So yeah, it's always, I think you have to consider life as both being serious and funny at the same time. So that's why some people say that you know, they're gonna focus on just one part, which they will say, oh, it doesn't exist, or it's not real, or, you know, some people, when I said, I was joking, but I said, for instance, I am more interested in the
top. This is what the user said, whose name is Shayat Mang. Let's build the Iron Man on stream.
Yeah, maybe eventually, but I'll see first. I'll see first if the Avengers chair and electric scooters hybrid work before we do this, because I've got a lot of stuff to do. I know it seems, you know, sometimes people see me at one place as a presence, but they imagine I'm doing nothing behind this when I actually am doing a lot of stuff. If it's not research, real research, sometimes just plain fun research, because I've done, I'm pretty, I was pretty interested in truly the Iron Man suit. So that made me interested in the first Iron Man movie very much, because it was seemingly realistic and it was nicely done. The plots were interesting. So to me, for instance, I like the movie, which has nothing to do with actual, at the time, actual science. The Iron Man suit wasn't really referred to as an Iron Man suit, but afterwards we know that I think it's the American Navy made a suit similar to look like this one, and now people call it the Iron Man suit. Of course, it's not exactly the same, and some people at Mythbusters, for instance, they put jets on their hands, microjets that they can control like hobbyists, but they use them to fly like Iron Man. Of course, not the theatrical flights, but still flying pretty close to what they did in the movie. So I do some research on that just for the fun of it, and I do some research for real. For instance, the technology that Tesla uses to improve their battery performances, which I understand is more of a climate conditioning of the batteries, which is difficult to do on a smaller scale because you pay a lot more. But there are ways to go around that, and especially the newest technologies that have been discovered recently should allow us to have something very close soon, I hope, because the inconvenience, most of the time the marketplace wants to sell their old technology before a new technology, even if it exists, hits the market. So in that way, the batteries have been, they know they can do something a lot better, but they usually say it takes like tens of years to do development on them. But as we know, everything goes faster now. So what took 10 years before now can take merely a year or even less to be something that's actually usable, but they won't probably commercialize it publicly before that. You can do it yourself though most of the time, when you know how it's done, when you know where to get parts of the materials. And sometimes you get parts with kits that are not as relevant as most people would think, but can actually work at least as a basis of something and eventually end up with something better. So if, for instance, you take the Stark chair, like I said, or the Avengers projects, they are part, things that I can find easily. But if you consider the manufacturing time that they had to put into those things, like could have been planned like 10 years ago, developed, created, it's still nice to think that you have technology that is quite advanced compared to those times. And for today, if you combine many of those developments, you can end up with something better and more interesting than just a simple wheelchair or a simple electric scooter, or things like that. Especially with the cameras now, we've got the possibility to be our own image gatherers. You can gather your pictures, you can gather your videos, you can gather your sounds, and later on you can put that all together and have something that, a few years ago most people wouldn't even think above a simple picture that they can hold in their hands. So I'm not saying it's necessarily better, but some things are better. For instance, you get a wider range of information. If I want to know, for instance, this week where I went, where were the easy accessible bathrooms, I can just look and see, oh, at that place I didn't notice, but there were signs that indicated that if we go climb the mountain there, if we go see the volcano at this particular spot, and we need to go to the bathroom, we're not too far from there. So those are things, I mean, you can't as easily keep them, and you take probably more pictures and you ramble a little bit more like I do, say things that are less useful to most people. But in the end, I believe it's all for the better. I mean, for me, it's making me practice the thinking as I speak, and you know, as I do other things, test the cameras and things like that. So yeah, okay, so I think it's been pretty good for what I've ordered and for the tests. I'm happy that Mang, you were here for testing out the TTS. At least I know that it does work, and eventually, if more people join, because of course I do this at the hours that most people are asleep, because it's my energy. I when I get up, I've got tons of energy. I can do a lot of stuff, and like I said, maybe during the day I'll be able to go do some live streaming. I'll try that. I'm not sure if it's gonna work properly, but I'll probably live stream and post at the same time videos of the journey to that spot, so that way people are not, if eventually there's a lot of people or more people watching, that they are not discouraged by waiting for the live stream to start, so they're going to see the travel, and then I'm going to start the live streaming so they can chat between each other, ask questions. They want to see something, for instance, from the volcano. They want to know what part is where I'm talking about the lake, or what part, if they ever come to visit, they should go to see the most of it. And alors c'est ça pour le résumé. J'ai commandé le Ironman, le suit de Ironman en Lego en plus, parce que ça venait avec la livraison de l'item. Et plus tard, je vais essayer de faire un live stream sur le Mont Royal, je crois. Je vais regarder si je peux faire ça cet après-midi. Je vais essayer de mettre un event notice quelques heures avant. I'll try to put the event notices in before, like a few hours before, if I can manage to do that. Et puis, c'est ça. Pour le reste, j'ai testé le texte à voix, le TTS, qu'on appelle en anglais. Et je vais faire les montages aussi pour entre les deux, lorsque les gens vont attendre la transmission en direct, pour parler entre eux autres et poser des questions s'ils veulent voir des choses en particulier, ils pourront regarder le trajet entre-temps. Donc, merci d'avoir regardé ça. Et si vous avez des questions, if you have questions right now, don't hesitate to ask. If you have questions or comments, you can also leave them below. I mean, I don't think there is a lot a lot more than I can say for now. I'm trying to remember. I think, oh yeah, of course, I hope you have a good Valentine's Day. Today is the 14th when we're doing the live stream. It's early in the morning. It's probably more in relation with your supper. Usually we celebrate that a little later during the day, but some people are in other countries, so I guess they might already be there. Alors, joyeux Saint-Valentin pour ceux qui le fêtent présentement. Habituellement, c'est plus au souper, fait que je vous souhaite bon souper de la Saint-Valentin. So have a good Valentine's supper. And I think that's about it. I'll do the mix of the cameras later on. So thanks for watching again. See you next time. Oh, I think the TTS shut down because there was no activity. I forgot that. I forgot to put the charger on. Oh, okay, thank you for your comments, Mang. Yeah, I do have the scooters. Let me see if I can get them. Well, this is the newest one that I'm gonna use for when there's snow, and also I'm probably gonna use it so for when there's snow. I'm gonna use the deck. I'm gonna try the complete set first, but I'm gonna use the deck because it's a shorter deck. It's probably lighter as well than the than the Tesla deck. And also I can easily put the ski on this deck. The other deck I'll probably need to find spacers and different kinds of bolts. We'll see. The other deck I'll probably keep and make something on the Stark chair to morph it into a scooter chair eventually. Hopefully that was the idea with the wheelchair, was to have Joel wheels in front of the Tesla scooter, so that in big bumps or in places like that, the 24-inch wheels would be better than just a 6-inch wheel. And this deck also is going to be used in conjunction with pavement, so I'm going to be able to just switch to a traditional road scoot, probably an electric road scoot.
That will be awesome.
That would be great if it works, I hope. Up to now, I mean, I have to say that the Stark chair worked better than I expected, so that's pretty good for that part. And the Tesla Scoot worked pretty good, worked better than I expected in most ways. The only thing I'm trying to fix right now is the constant problem that we've always had, but that's getting better. It's the range. I'm trying to find ways to get better range.
Said, whose name is Shayat Bang. How long to put that together?
It shouldn't be too long. For the test, I had planned to do the snow scoot, the Avenger scoot tests today, but I'll probably do that next week. So I'll try the live streaming probably today. So I would say it should take, for the chair, that's the thing. I'm focusing on the chair right now to have the range and the speed adjusted, because I find that sometimes it's a little bit too fast for inside, so I'll have to tame that down a little bit. So that should take a few weeks, changing parts to make it stronger, less fast for inside. And the Tesla Scoot hybrid should be, converted eventually, depending on the results with the Avenger Scoot. If the Avenger Scoot works great, then I might do a hybrid with the Avenger Scoot from the Tesla. If the test doesn't work so great next week, I'll probably do a hybrid of the Stark chair with the Tesla Scoot. So that will add faster speed, but outside. I'm not sure yet if I want to use the wheelchair outside, because the wheels probably get chewed up a lot faster when they're bigger, because they spin a lot more, whereas a smaller wheel, it's easy to replace. So that's really, I would say 2 weeks to know the results of the Avenger Scoot, another 2 weeks to decide if I do the hybrid. So we're talking about, I'd say 2 months. Should take about 2 months to know if it's a Stark Avenger chair or if it's a Tesla Avenger Scoot, depending on the results. I'm just gonna show you the other scooter that I got. One more. So this is the other one. I'm not sure if you saw me arrive at it. And it's a little bulkier. So I'm not sure if it is into frame. Yeah. had to do a few modifications to make it street legal and add a little protection on it. And eventually, I hope to.
This is what the user said, whose name is Shayek Bang. Well, lol.
What? Sorry, what? Yeah, so yeah, this basically what I would like to do is take this deck, which is, I find, most people, their complaint is that the decks are always too small. But I found that when you actually ride properly, I would say properly in my opinion, the any kick scooter actually, but mostly the electric ones, you want to have them as thin as possible, because you don't drive a kick scooter actually, you lean. And it's something that you learn when you ride motorbikes and motorcycles, but it's even more applicable to this. You don't even need to have the stem to twist really, because the way you ride it is, if you want to avoid an obstacle, you lean one side to the other. So the thinner the deck, the more lean you can have. And also, when you ride it, you don't ride it normally. You don't ride it as a Segway. It's not a Segway. So you either use the goofy or standard stands of a skateboard, which means that you can place your feet slightly diagonal or on the other side, so it doesn't need to be wide, as long as you know where to put your center of gravity. And also, most of the time, if it's a full kick, you're only gonna have one foot on the deck anyway, so it doesn't need to be that long. And since you have only one, it doesn't need to be wide either, because if you put one foot down, it's enough. A thin layer is enough for 1 foot. Also, if you have an electric one, normally you either rest your foot on the brake, but you need to also be prepared, because most people don't seem to understand that you also kick when you have an electric kick scooter. Whenever there's an obstacle or anything near you, you start kicking, and you're going to be able to go fine with it. That's why I was hesitant on these models with small wheels, because I figured they would have a hard time going across most cracks and bumps. But I found out by using them that what you do, as soon as you see a bump, you just give a little kick and you're over the bump, and it's no problem at all. So the smaller the wheel, the easier it is to put under a chair, under a shopping cart, in a car, in anything. So that's a great advantage for those that have small wheels. And the bigger wheels would be necessary, I think, in snow mostly, and mud, if you want to, do some dirt riding, which is one of my main goals. The main goal that I had with any two-wheeler was to use in the woods. So that one I actually used on dirt paths, and it worked quite good. The inconvenience is the engine. You have to be careful, because the motor is little prone to get dusty, so you have to take proper maintenance for it. I had to disassemble everything, check everything out, and the other thing I found out is that the build of most items is they aren't properly made. They forget, for instance, here it was too tight, so the wheel had a difficult time spinning before, so I had to adjust that myself. On the start wheelchair, they forgot to put spacers on the center part of the wheelchair, so when it's unfolded, it tends to have the wheels come together, which is not a good thing when you're trying to do a little faster run, because the wheels then wobble and you lose speed and control. So that's something I've had to fix, also figure out why the wheels would start wobbling and things like that. But from what I see, they really forgot, either the designers forgot to put that in, or the manufacturers figured that they would save on costs by not including certain parts that you don't need for for higher speeds on these devices. But if you add those parts, you can actually go faster than what they normally do. So that's why I did a lot of the previews that you see. If you go back to check my previews and things like that, it's actually previews of Stark wheelchair tests on speeds, because I had the first preview I did, if you see, I think it's along a wall with a black arrow. So I do a test by hand, everything was fine. But as soon as I would try to speed up by hand a lot or use the motor, then I would get some shimmy in the front wheels, which I wasn't expecting. So I had to work on it for a few days to try to understand why they were wobbling. And I changed the height of the wheels. I changed the width. I adjusted some of the boots. The boots on top were also strangely put together. But all of that, the second video, which is I think you see me in a concrete underground parking, huge parking, and the camera is low, and that's where people joked about me having cameras hiding low, but that's not it. I was trying to film the chair to test out the wheels in front to see if the wobbling had lessened, if they were less wobbly since I had done the changes of the height and things like that. And that test didn't show much improvement. It was more stable, but when I reached twice the speed, 3 times the speed, they would still start wobbling. And I came back, tested out a few more things.
User said, whose name is Shy Bang. I saw that one.
Okay, you saw the one with the underground parking. So what I did this time with the preview, I added the complete footage, and the complete footage was exactly the test that I did. That was a huge parking. There's a lot that I didn't film, but I would go around it using the motor to see first off the distance, the range that I could get, and if the chair would hold up, not just the front wheels, but everything else, if they had to be adjusted. So yeah, I've done all of those things. And the third one was at the cardio workout place. It's a white brick wall in the previews that you see me there. So that was the same idea. I wasn't, filming people there. I was trying to find a nice quiet place to try out the third THIRD attempt, not the other kind of attempt. And that time it went a lot better with the engine, with the motor and the wheels. They were a lot more stable. I still had some wobble on them, but a lot less. I'm figuring that it might have to do with the fact that the wheels aren't connected together. Probably that would be a better solution. That's why I might actually use a deck in front, I'm not sure, to put the feet on, and that would be already made to go at higher speeds, or put the deck at the back and use it outside as not sitting in the chair, when going inside, using it as a wheelchair with lower speed. So that's why I need to figure out how I'm gonna adjust the speeds to make it more powerful at low speeds and using less energy. So there's many different ways to do that. One of the ways that I'm looking at is lowering the strength of the motor, probably change this, and I'm not sure yet. Either change it for a smaller motor or use the bigger motor and put batteries. I would have to put batteries at the back, and that it might make the chair a little bit unstable. So it's little details like that hopefully will help make the range good enough so that I can go all around the island of Montreal. First, that's the first step, because at the moment I can do one way, but I can't really come back. I would like to be able to come back from where I'm gonna live stream, and eventually go to a longer distance of 75 kilometers. That would be the ultimate goal.
This is what the user said, whose name is Shayat Bang. How fast does that go?
This at its maximum on unmodded speed is 18 miles per hour, which is 25 kilometers per hour. So it's not fast compared with a motorcycle, of course, or a gas scooter, but it's way fast enough that if somebody opens a door on a car, and you hit it, it's gonna be pretty nasty. So I think as far as speed goes for kick scooters, that's enough. I wouldn't go faster. When I want something quick, for instance, I was saying that my goal for these devices would be to reach something like 50 miles, which is 75 kilometers. I wouldn't do it at a high rate of speed. So that would be enough to do, for instance, 2-3 hours to travel to one place and 3 hours back at a lower speed. If I really wanted to do traveling, for instance, if I'd go to Oak Island, for instance, and I wanted to travel there by my own means, I would probably take a bicycle and put an engine on the bicycle, and then I would probably aim for something twice as fast, but nothing over that, because I looked at the different videos of people doing speed on them, and they do it for a short amount of time. They can't really go fast for a long time. First, because the stretch of roads usually aren't that great. For instance, if they're in New York, from one light to the next, it's not really useful to go twice as fast if you wait twice as long at each light. And if you go in the country on these with small wheels, if you hit anything that's been, a frozen piece of something, or a rock that rolled, on the street, they wipe out pretty good on these. So at a, let's say 20 miles per hour, that's not too bad. But higher than that, I would probably go for a bicycle. At least with a bicycle, you've got, first off, bigger wheels, so that, and you've got also more storage for the batteries. These have smaller spaces to put your battery pack. So, I mean, I prefer range over speed myself. That's my choice. I would do something that takes usually 1 hour of car in probably 3 hours. So to me, that's fine. Just go sooner and come back sooner. And if it's important, or if I go, like I said, if I wanted to do a trip to Oak Island, I would probably go with the bicycle. That is, after I've tested the motors with these and the batteries, I'll decide, what type of bicycle I'd like to use, depending on the results I get for the range, for the speed, also the strength. Because if you use a long distance road, you have to.
What the user said, whose name is Shayat Bang. Where would you put the battery pack?
On the bicycle? Do you mean on the bicycle, or? Because actually, well, the best thing would be if they come out with the newest batteries that I was talking about, which don't require any specific shapes. Because, for instance, on a bicycle, you've got a little more space, of course.
What the user said, whose name is Shayat Bang. On the scooter.
Okay, to me, if you're gonna be using a scooter, the best place is the stem. Because if you want to truly be able to use the deck comfortably, it has to be the lowest.
This is what the user said, whose name is Shayat Bang. Your TTS is very slow.
No, actually, I think it's the stream. What happens is that by the time that that you've typed the question, it takes about 3-4 seconds for me to hear it, and then for me to answer it takes more time. So I think that's why. I'm not sure. Do you hear the TTS well? So yeah, just to recap on the kick scooters, my opinion is that the battery should go in the front. Okay, they either in the stem or some way in front, because the deck, you want it to have it as low as possible. The rear, you want it to be as short as possible to avoid, transportation problems, or to avoid also if you get in a collision, you're gonna have everything that's behind you, coming with energy of your ride. So if you hit the door of a car that opens up in front of you, if you got a battery in your back, you're gonna hit your heels, and your foot is gonna be crushed probably by the battery pack.
His name is Shayat Bang. I hear the TTS about 2 minutes after I type.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to check that. But yeah, so the battery pack will be in front. If I can do it the way I want. The only reason I put it under is if I go with traditional batteries, eventually I'll probably do something like cut the top of the deck, put the huge batteries on the deck, and then ride it as if I'm riding an electric log or something like that. But to truly use a kick scooter at best, at its best, I would put it just in the stem. And that way you can lower your deck. Your feet are not in danger of getting hit by something at the back. And even the wheel, I think the wheel they make the wheels too big at the back. They don't need to be that big. Only the front needs to clear the obstacles. The rest, if you hit something, the deck will just slide over it, So it's not necessary to make it this big. I think they make it like this just to make it look more like an adult device, because if they put a small, tiny wheel at the back, it would look more like a toy.
This is what the user said, whose name is Shayat Bang. If you crash, the batteries will explode.
Hopefully not. I know you're probably joking, but what can happen is while you use the batteries, there's often some gas released inside the container. Now they made space for the gas to come out. That's why they burst less than they used to. But that gas, if you do break a piece of wire inside and there's a short, that could ignite the gas indeed, if it's not properly vented. But from what I've heard, especially with the Tesla cars, I don't think there's been much problems with explosions. There are fire issues, of course. We've all heard of the Galaxy 7 phones, and that sadly was a poorly designed battery that had sharp crystals inside most of the time, and they would puncture the batteries. So that's one of the reasons. There can always be explosions, but those are pretty rare. I think 1% of the time when there's an accident, and there's a chance of fire, of course, if you hit something and there's a problem with the electric circuitry. But in our case, for the batteries in front or in the back, really the difference is the kinetic energy that's stored in any object that's either behind you or in front of you. You prefer having the kinetic stuff in front of you, so that way if you hit something, they're gonna disperse their energy in the door, not in you, compared with something at the back or at the bottom. Like I said, the bottom is mostly for deck clearance. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this project of for the like I said, it's still in the decisional phase, which is going to be either a wheelchair hybrid or a kick scooter hybrid, but there definitely will be both an electric wheelchair and an electric kick scooter. Just not sure which one will be the hybrid. I'm just gonna get a glass of water. Be right back. All right, sorry. So I had a breakfast before starting and didn't drink much. That made it a little unusual for my throat speaking that much. All right, so well, Meng, thanks again for trying out the TTS, even though it's a little bit slow. I hope you have a nice day today, as it being Valentine's Day, and everybody else as well. And thanks for watching. We can chat more eventually. If you have ideas, things for me to try out, I'll probably do that as well. And I'm gonna try to see if I can prepare something for this afternoon as a live stream. So thanks again. See you next time.
This is what the user said, whose name is Shayat Bang. No worries. This is what the user said, whose name is Shayat Bang. Been a pleasure, Bernie. This is what the
Thank
user
you.
said,
You
whose
too.
name is Bernard. Thanks for watching Astra's Fun Journey.
Have a nice day.